Hello and welcome back to another episode of the On the Sideline podcast. As always, I am your host, Jackson Kruger. It's been a rough game, rough day. I've got my comically large beer mug here with the game, and I'm joined here, as always, by a man coming to you live from his smartphone. We had some technical issues, but we are back here. Kyle, how are you doing?
I'm good. Besides the technical issues, I don't know why my computer's not working today. So, any issues with the stream, I apologize in advance. We're going to try and power through because this is a big day. So, we're doing the MLS Decision Day podcast episode, right?
Yes, that's exactly right. I totally am aware of what that is. Know everything about it. Right off the bat, as always, we start off with the Sunday game. And but there's an important question, so important that we can't just go into there yet. Eli Mullen says, I was wondering which animal do you think would make the best football player? I think we should just spend an hour on this. Just don't even talk about the Bucs. We don't have to bring that up. We can just talk about animals.
So I'm assuming we're removing human being from the equation here.
Well, I think even with human beings, I think there's something. Well, let's just get into it. That's a great question, but maybe not to start the show with. This was terrible. This was depressing. I'll let you take the floor right away because I'm going to probably yell a lot. Go ahead, Kyle. What were your thoughts on this as a neutral party?
Okay. I guess I'll start with my thoughts. I don't. There's a lot I had to think about with this one. So first of all, if Tom Brady didn't want to, he's talked about wanting these weapons on his team. If he just wanted to throw to Rob Gronkowski all the time, he could have just stayed in New England and done the same thing with the New England Patriots. I mean, look, I get the understanding of taking what the defense gives you, but if you're going to have Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and Antonio Brown, and you can't give them like a fucking screen pass or something to like just get them open and get them some space or just get like 5 yards, what's the point? What are you doing? I don't understand that on the offensive side. You got to find a way to get these guys the ball more than, Evans still ended up leaving the team in receiving yards, but he didn't have any. I think he had one in the first half or none, maybe. You can't, go an entire game with these guys getting 10 touches, basically. You got to find a way, whether it's that stupid jet sweep pass that shouldn't be a pass, screen pass, something to get these guys some space and something to get them just with the ball in their hands to make plays, because that's the whole point of this, is that they're such great players and such great playmakers. So that's my offensive thing that I noticed with Tampa Bay. And then the defense, I think my opinion on them is that I think that a lot of people are going to overreact that Todd Bowles is a good defensive coordinator, which isn't fair. He's a great defensive coordinator. But this team, playing the Saints team, he's got to adjust. He's got to come out of his comfort zone a little. His drop deep zone and blitz. They didn't blitz that much in this one, it seemed like, or not as much as he usually does. This drop deep zone against the Saints, there's no point. They don't throw it downfield. I've been just as hard on Drew Brees as probably anybody else in the world. But at the same time, if you're going to complete every fucking pass, it doesn't matter if you throw it 10 yards down the field. He doesn't have to, because he completes everything. And if you're just going to sit in a deep zone and just let him pick you apart, you're going to lose this game every time.
It was infuriating. And I tweeted about this because it was the most frustrating thing I've experienced in quite some time, where we're playing zone, just a base zone coverage, play after play after play. Because, Drew Brees, it's not like he's going to be able to find the soft spots in the zone. And it's not like he's the most accurate passer in NFL history or anything, where he's going to be able to make those throws. And then we finally play man coverage, and we're doing it against Taysom Hill, one of the best running quarterbacks in the league, and he just runs and gets a huge gain that way. I had no clue what was going on defense. You're right, Todd Bowles is a great defensive coordinator. I'm not going to argue that. He had a horrible game plan, and quite frankly, there isn't a player on this team you can't criticize. There isn't a coach on this team you can't criticize. This was a loss in every single aspect of the game. Our defense got crushed. Our offense got crushed. Our coaching staff got crushed. Our special teams was terrible. This was, Suckup went 1 for 1 on field goals. He's the one guy that you give some credit to. This was just an all-out failure, and we had 4 handoffs this entire game, which, I mean, watching it live, I didn't think was that crazy, but that just kind of says how the game was. Brady was awful. I know the 3 interceptions, really, those are a bit misleading, but I mean, he did not have a good game whatsoever. And I mean, this was just, I think the Saints showed that they're still the best team in the NFC South, and I think that they were probably disrespected. And I think this is a good huge win for them, obviously, but very frustrating as a Bucs fan.
Yeah, I think, you said nobody besides Suckup played well for the Buccaneers. I think everybody besides Jared Cook played well for the Saints today. Everybody brought their A game besides Jared Cook. I think I'll cede this one to you because obviously this is your team, and I like to hear you yell about it, Tom.
Yeah.
You've had a good year. You can have a little bit of suffering.
That's true. That's fair. I know.
Jackson's winning 2020. But so let me ask you this. I guess, if we went through, because, I think a lot of people thought this team would be good, but there's still a level of uncertainty because there's so many new parts with such a weird off season, not getting a lot of practice time. If I told you 9 games through the season, the Bucs are going to be 6-3, but they're going to get blown out by New Orleans twice. They've been outscored like 79-20 in these 2 games against New Orleans. So if you get 6-3, blown out twice by New Orleans, do you feel good about this team? Do you feel concerned? I guess, how do you feel about this team right now?
Well, I mean, I'd be ecstatic about that. I mean, putting it all into perspective, this is still the best season I've watched since probably 2008 when we were 9-3 and then lost 4 straight and missed the playoffs. But this is the best start to a season we've had in quite some time. I mean, I don't think we're going to beat the Saints. Right now, Arians is 0-4 against the Saints since coming over to Tampa Bay. I didn't think we were a better team than the Saints. I thought that we could at least be competitive. So, I mean, the blowouts is one thing, but this wasn't just a blowout. This was just, this was just domination. I mean, even in garbage time, they outscored us in the fourth quarter. I mean, this was from start to finish. This was just complete domination. I thought Jameis Winston, just handing the ball off, looked better than Tom Brady did. This is not a good. It just wasn't a good. There's no positives to take from this one. I guess Antonio Brown looked okay. Maybe he can continue to be good. It was just domination. That's what it was.
Yeah, I mean, he was good besides running the wrong route on the interception, which was a bad throw, but, he also ran the wrong route. I mean, the Saints, they scored on 4 of their first 5 drives. The one drive they didn't score, they fumbled at the 1-yard line. So, I mean,
and we matched that by 4 3-and-outs and 1 first down immediately followed up with an interception. I mean, that was the first 5 drives of this game.
Yeah, I mean, transitive property, if you want to use that for the NFC, doesn't make a lot of sense because the Saints beat the Buccaneers twice, but the Saints lost to the Packers and the Buccaneers blew out the Packers. So who knows what's going on in the NFC? And then, of course, you got the NFC South with an over on its own, just destroying each other. But, yeah, I mean, so I guess, do you feel like if these 2 teams met in the NFC Championship, can you have a better shot?
Did you say that we'd have a shot?
Yes. Based on these 2 performances, do you think you have a chance against this team? Is this just a bad matchup?
It's definitely a bad matchup. I mean, you always have a chance, but I mean, it's 95% Saints are going to win. I mean, it's not like it's hard to imagine a scenario where we get blown out this badly in the first 2 games, and then I mean, we were more competitive in the first game, which is weird. We thought it was going to be the flip flop, and it just listen. I still think I'm very frustrated about this loss. I still think we're a playoff team, but let's just be honest. This isn't a Super Bowl team. You can't lose to the Saints 38-3, get blown out by them in another week, nearly lose to the Chargers, lose to the Bears, nearly lose to the Giants, and act like this is a Super Bowl team. They're just not on that level, and they're just not.
Yeah, I mean, you might be right. I mean, I still feel like when this team's at its best, it's the most complete team in football, but we've seen it at its best probably half the game so far this season. So, I mean, we'll see. There's still plenty of time to figure it out. The Patriots lost a game 41-14 with Brady and won the Super Bowl that year. So, and that was on the Cincinnati week, So, I mean, that's the same thing. I'm not letting 1 week define my season, but I still think this Buccaneers team is really good. I still think they're one of the easily top 3 teams in the NFC. Bad game. It was a bad game, and it was pretty much lost. It was 28-0 before they blinked.
Well,
So
and
I
here's the
don't.
thing too. Here's why I'm partially saying it too. We have the next 3 weeks are Carolina, the Rams, then the Chiefs. Then our next 4 are pretty easy. But it's very likely to think that we're going to lose at least one, probably two, very possibly 2 of those games. And we're not going to get the first seed this way because we would have to have a better record than the Saints because they now have the tiebreaker. And that number 1 seed is just so important. It's hard to imagine. It's possible. It's hard to imagine. But let's flip over a little bit. Kenneth Lee asked a good question. We'll talk about the Saints because this was a great win for them. Are the Saints the favorites in the NFC now? You can make a strong argument. I mean, Seattle lost. Green Bay did not play, I believe. Yeah, Green Bay did not play. But
they played Thursday.
Oh, that's right, Thursday. That's yeah, and they won. But I think you can make a very strong argument the Saints are the best team in the NFC. They're certainly on the short list of teams that could be representing the NFC in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, I really like the top 4. I have questions about the teams kind of below that. I feel like it's almost like the AFC. I like the top 4 here. And then beyond that, it's like, well, maybe if things kind of break the right way. I mean, if they're going to cover like this, if Janoris Jenkins and Marshawn Lattimore and Jenkins are going to cover like this every week, then absolutely, I think they're the favorites to win the NFC. I think the issue we've seen with the Saints is that they'll cover like this one game, and then they'll have like their game against the Packers where it's like they're really struggling on defense. I mean, I thought the defensive line, the front 4 did a really good job too of pretty much, you don't need to like blitz Brady like crazy. You just need to pretty much collapse the pocket. You just need to push the offensive line back. I thought the front 4 did a really good job of that and got a few sacks out of it. But I really thought just from the get-go with Jenkins on Gronkowski, the coverage from the Saints I thought was just unreal in this game. Nobody was open for a lot of it. If they're going to cover like that, yeah, I think they're the favorites. But we got to see it every week.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's like I'm convinced Marshawn Lattimore just hates Mike Evans so much. He like preserves his energy in every other game so he can like dominate Evans because I don't know what goes on there. He's having not a great season. He's had some bad games, and then he just again against Mike Evans, he's his kryptonite. On top of this, I guess a couple final thoughts. For whatever reason, when the Bucs play the Saints, their line play just dominates on both sides of the ball. And like even on the years that we've had bad offensive lines, they've just like even more so found a way to get pressure constantly and to never give up pressure, no matter how good our D-line is. And finally, I have to say, I'm not sure if you saw this, the Jameis Winston eating a W in the after that, if anyone missed it, Jameis Winston did the eating a W thing, and I saw people on Twitter like, what a great revenge game for him. Like, wait a second, we spent the first round pick on him. We paid him $20 million last year. Oh, how good of the Saints! How nice of them to offer him a $1 million deal to be a backup quarterback. What a great honor they gave him.
Yeah, I mean, I thought they weren't going to put him in for a second because they did a whole series with Taysom Hill basically before that. I thought he wasn't going to end up getting in. I was like, that's kind of harsh. But, I mean, the Jameis thing's whatever. Obviously, he's the backup for a reason because he committed 30 turnovers last year or more than that last season. So, I mean, it's a good win for the Saints. I think that they have to feel, for how many questions we had about this team going on the flip side because, we can yell about Tampa Bay all day. To go on the other side, we've criticized this Saints team a lot for looking incomplete a lot of games. This was awesome. Like it seemed like 25 different players caught a pass. Kamara still, Kamara wasn't even that great this game, but he still had a way to make an impact in it. Like I already talked about the coverage. Trey Hendrickson had like 3 plays where he was awesome. Yeah, I mean, I thought it was just a really good performance from them, and you have to feel really good about this if you're a New Orleans fan.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a statement win for the Saints. Let's move on, finally. Let's go over to, I think this was the game of the week. Let's talk about some fun stuff now. How about the Dolphins-Cardinals game? Aside from the officiating, pretty much everything about this game was fantastic. Tua was great. We kind of got on him a little bit for his poor week 1 performance. Tua was awesome. Or not week 1, but his first performance. He was awesome in this game. Kyler didn't have the one mistake, but he was great as well. Sort of an electric, high-scoring game and a very fun one.
Yeah, Tua, coming alive a little bit here. You said, I mean, the thing was that was so impressive to me. Kyler, like you said, he made the one mistake early on. he was borderline perfect after that. I mean, it doesn't
Mhm.
get better than that throw to Christian Kirk. He, was able to pick them apart, and Tua just matched him ball for ball, basically. Now, they did a really good job, and it's like, Miami didn't run the ball really well without Myles Gaskin, and they were still able to compete in this game. I thought they did a really good job. I thought the receivers did a really good job of helping out Tua as well, and it was a great game.
Even the missed tied up field goal was exciting, where I thought for sure it was going in. I think I looked away. I was watching Red Zone. They had the split screen. I looked to the other game, and then I hear it's and it's short, and it's just like such a you never see that for it wasn't that long of a kick. Yeah, I mean, and Tua, listen, I'm going to make a video on it before too long. I mean, he looked great. I mean, he was making these throws that there's plenty of NFL guys that can't make. And he was making mature decisions as well. I mean, for Miami, you got to be pretty excited about this game for a ton of reasons.
Yeah, I mean, this was the two that I said if he didn't have injury issues, I would have easily picked him number one. His ability to read coverages that he's been doing since he came into that national championship game's first year were just on full display. He used his full, all of his skill position players basically were all involved in the passing game. Yeah, I mean, he just looked. Ever since he was 18, he's looked like a really mature quarterback, and he showed it again. He may not be as electric as a guy like Kyler, but he just continually showed that he's this good. He can just pick teams apart when he needs to.
Yeah, well, I mean, even Tua looked electric on some of those plays. I still feel like the only real nitpick I have about Tua in his first start was he did take a couple of sacks he probably didn't have to take. But other than that, I mean, he also was able to get around a few guys that those are like those plays that you watch in college and say, well, that will never work in the NFL. The D lineman will find a way to tackle you, but they weren't able to in this game. He was able to be successful running the ball as well, which I didn't really realize was a part of his game, but it was a part of his game today. So just a very promising performance from Tua. Also, I mean, you could argue neither defense played particularly well. The Dolphins defense was a bit disappointing, but they also got the defensive touchdown, so you'll kind of take that. But yeah, I mean, I don't have too much to add unless you want to say something.
No, I think we just about covered it. Obviously, it was awesome to see him play well, and now we look like we have three rookie quarterbacks who could be really good in this league. I mean, obviously, it's only 2 games, and you don't want to jump to conclusions, but I thought he was really good in this one. So where do we feel about the Dolphins now? 5-3. Heading into this game, they had a top 5 defense, and it looks like they can finally move the ball through looks like they can move the ball through the passing game as well. No disrespect to Fitzpatrick, he did well too, and maybe when they get Gaskin back, this team can compete for a division title.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the compete for division, they look like a playoff team. I mean, that's what they look like, and me personally, I kind of had this thought of well, when they went to Tua, it kind of made me feel like they're just preparing for next year. And I still kind of, to some degree, think that's what they're doing. But, I heard someone explain well, hey, they have probably a top 10 pick with the Texans pick. There's a lot of good quarterbacks. Maybe they just want to see if Tua is the guy. And if not, they can move on. Well, this is the best case scenario where not only is Tua showing promise, he's basically led you to a win. And proving that you look like a playoff team right now, and you still have that top 10 pick probably with the Texans.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even think it's necessarily to showcase to see if he's good enough to be the quarterback. I think a lot of it is just kind of like, hey, we're playing with house money right now. If we win football games, great, we'll make the playoffs. If not, we're going to have 2 top 15 picks to build around this guy. I mean, if this team could add an offensive lineman and potentially a guy like Jalen Waddle to this offense, or Devontae Smith, and that's just going to be insane for the team to have all these weapons on their team. This team, yeah, I mean, the Dolphins in the next 5 years are going to be interesting to watch. I think they're going to be dangerous.
Yes, very fun stuff. All right, let's move on. How about this game? This is the thumbnail, Lamar Jackson. This was an interesting one, right? Because the Ravens were abysmal in the first half. I mean, on offense, they got nothing done. Their only score was a defensive touchdown. And then the second half came, and they looked great. I mean, they got the 17 points. They also had a goal line fumble, which could have easily been a 24 spot in the second half. Didn't give up anything. Their defense played fantastic all game long. And really, I felt like what the difference was Lamar Jackson making plays through the air. And Lamar Jackson, once he was able to make those plays through the air, that opened up the running game, and that really allowed everything to go. And they honestly, in the second half, at a certain point, started looking a little bit like the Ravens team from last year. They were able to get these long drives going. Now, it's still concerning that you got held to 2.2 yards per play in the first half, but definitely something to build off of if you're Baltimore in the second half.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting to watch. I thought, I kind of told you that this was major upset potential in the Wednesday show. This Colts defense is really good, man. I mean, they looked awesome. Not only were they doing a great job of eliminating this running game, but they were doing a great job of just chasing Jackson down. I hadn't really seen a team like they did in the first half be able to not only like stop him, but also chase him down in the backfield and make plays like that, not allowing him to get to the edge a whole lot. I thought it was a great performance in the first half from this defense. The first thing is that they obviously need help from their offense, who was not only inefficient today, but also made a couple mistakes, which hurt them badly because, I tweeted at halftime, I was like, Baltimore or Indianapolis is definitely letting Baltimore steal this game, but Baltimore didn't even need to steal the game because it just completely flipped in the second half. The offense made too many mistakes in this one, and then it just wore on the defense by that point. And like I said, I think you can contain Lamar in spurts. I think there's situations where he's going to struggle, but I don't think 4 quarters you're going to shut him down like that and hope to win a football game. You got to score more than 10 points against this team.
Yeah, and that's the other thing about the Ravens is that, that's kind of why I was saying, don't press the panic button, because their defense is still really good. And they showed that, hey, maybe having having Judon back in the game after got kicked out of last game, that might actually make a difference. Their defense was incredible. And you said that the Colts might let this one slip away. The Ravens might steal it. And it kind of did have that feel, because if you're going to hold the Ravens offense to no points in the first half, you have to lead by more than 3 at the end of the first half. And that was really kind of the difference. I also want to talk about one other thing, because this was a big point of arguments here. I talked about this in my video about the Ravens. Eli Mullins said, I don't think that pick was a pick. Personally, I thought it was the right call. I'd like to know what you think about the Marcus Peters interception that was or wasn't.
I mean, I thought it was an interception personally. I would have to see the replay again, but personally, I thought it was an interception. I was kind of going with the call on the field with that one.
Well, yeah, I mean, the reason why I felt like it was an interception was because he had the ball. It was kind of weird because he was going backwards as he caught it. So he catches it and he makes the third step in a very quick time frame because he's going backwards. And as you go backwards, you move your feet a lot. And so he had a third step very quickly. And while the ball was moving, I didn't think it was quite I never thought he lost possession. But it was just kind of one of those weird things. The catch rule, if you're going to make it without a gray area, there's going to be some weird ones that get ruled. But I thought it was the right call.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely agree with that. At the end of the day, it was an interception called on the field. So, I mean, it didn't change the fact of my opinion on Phillip Rivers. So I was actually thinking about this late Wednesday night after our show. And then I guess Boomer Esiason said it, so he kind of stole it from me. But I swear I thought of it first. So if good old buddies Doug Peterson and Frank Reich are talking in the offseason and the talk of Carson Wentz for Jacoby Brissett in the second-round pick comes up, who's hanging up the phone first?
The Eagles, by far. I mean, the Eagles still have this. They still have Carson Wentz still has MVP candidate potential. I think we know what Jacoby Brissett is at this point. I think if anything, they'd probably just rather have an extra pick and with the second round pick and just go with Jalen Hurts. I don't think they have any interest in Brissett.
You wouldn't want to bring in a competition though, or something. But I mean, either way, I think it would. I think this could be an interesting landing spot if he gets back with Frank Reich. I think they need an upgrade though. I think that they tried with Phillip Rivers, and the Andrew Luck situation once again continues to stink for this team. But this team's really good, and it's very obvious that they're not going to be able to this year. But I think that this is going to what's limiting them to potentially being one of the contenders in the AFC. They don't have an option there.
Yeah, well, I mean, hey, let's be honest. It's not like you can just go out and sign the greatest quarterback of all time in the offseason, right?
No, that never happened.
Yeah, no, definitely. They definitely had no opportunity for that. All right. Yeah. I mean, for the Colts, they're still a good team and they have a huge game coming up. I believe this Thursday. Yeah, this Thursday against the Titans. That'll be interesting to see what happens. So I'm not out on the Colts yet. I mean, you took a good team down to the not really down to the wire, but you at least showed you can be capable. But again, got to clean up the offense.
Yep. No, I
Uh,
completely agree. Playing the elite teams, you need more than 10 points.
Yep. All right. Let's talk about another elite team from one of the best in the AFC to currently the best in the AFC, the best in the league last year in terms of winning a Super Bowl. Kansas City, they held on. This was not a dominating win. Carolina was frisky, but they were not able to get it done, which has kind of been the story of these Panthers. Is they keep looking impressive in losses. They're 3-6, and they feel like they could easily be 6-3. I got to start off this segment with this. How is Patrick Mahomes not the obvious frontrunner for MVP?
I mean, I think he is now.
Yeah, I mean, but I think he has 25 touchdowns to 1 interception. I mean, this guy. I feel like just the fact that he's Mahomes and he's gotten so much attention. Like, I don't know how you can make an argument for anybody else at this point, just past the halfway mark in the season.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely didn't want to discount anything Russell Wilson did early in the season, and is still doing at points throughout this year. We're going to talk about him in a sec, so I don't want to get too much into it yet. But I mean, yeah, I mean, he was awesome in this one and continues to save this team. Where I'm getting a little concerned about the running game. They put a huge point of emphasis, I feel like, this year to get this running game going and have that as an option. So it's not the same thing over and over again with this team to try and upgrade this offense with something they haven't had since Kareem Hunt was there. And I'm getting a little concerned about how this is going to look by the end of the season. Can they run the ball consistently?
Yeah, no, it's a real concern. I mean, you go out and you draft Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Everyone thought this was going to be like, okay, he's going to get all these touches. They also didn't run the ball that much in this game. I mean, if you look at, they had 12 rushes, but 2 of those were Mahomes, and 1 of those was Tyreek Hill. So Edwards-Helaire always gets me, ran it 5 times for 14 yards. Yeah, they haven't really gotten that going. But at the same time, when you have Mahomes, who still goes 30 for 45 with 372, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, I don't think you care that much.
No, you don't. And obviously, they spotted Carolina 14-0 lead, so that probably added to it too, abandoning that running game. But yeah, I mean, there's not much to criticize when, Mahomes is just hitting Kelsey and Hill almost at will. I thought the Panthers actually did a pretty good job defensively to start this game, but it just started to wear on them. This team just has too many weapons, and not a lot of teams are going to be able to match that.
Yeah, exactly. And on the flip side for the Panthers, I thought, again, it's a good loss. You should be good next year. That's what we keep saying, although I'm sure they'd rather just be good this year. But McCaffrey was back, and while his numbers weren't spectacular, I thought he did look really good. His numbers in the receiving game were, he had 82 receiving yards, a nice 69 yards rushing, which was 3.8 yards per carry. And yeah, I mean, it came down to the wire. They ended up trying a 67-yard field goal. I don't know why they thought that would work, but it came somewhat close. So I guess they have a kicker for big leg. Might as well try it. And there was a couple of nice plays at the end there I'm trying to remember Armani Watts made a couple of nice plays at the end to not allow the Panthers to get closer, where they could have tried maybe like a 59-yard field goal, which might have had a better chance.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we see this time and time again where this team that's very young and very talented, you almost have to learn to, it's cliche, but it's almost like you have to learn to win sometimes before you start winning. And I think this is kind of the Panthers. I think they're building towards the right thing, but they're just going to come on the wrong end at a lot of these games this season. And I feel like they're going to make a big leap in the next couple of years. This team has a lot of talent, and they have a great coach. So I think they're going in the right direction.
Yes, just what we need. Another great coach quarterback combination. Great coach in the NFC South. Super happy about that. All right, let's move on now. Let's talk. How about this one? As the leader of the Josh Allen hate club, this is probably not a great moment for you. Although kind of I don't know if you call it a cool story or what, but Josh Allen, his grandmother, found out his grandmother passed just before I believe the day before the game, ends up throwing 415 yards on 38 attempts, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. I think even the Josh Allen hate club is saying, well, you know what, good for him for this one.
Yeah, I mean, he was awesome in this game. He was really good in this one. He picked this defense apart. You know, he was really good, and Stephon Diggs was really good. John Brown, I thought, was really, really good. And they just were able to make a bunch of plays, and it was kind of the same thing I felt like with the Chiefs, except they weren't able to come back. Seattle spotted them a 14-0 lead, and then weren't able to battle back. They started matching them a little bit, but at the same time, it just proved too much of a deficit. Russell Wilson with 4 turnovers, which is very, it's crazy that, his first half of the year, he looks like he's going to run away with the MVP, as we were talking about. And then he has 7 turnovers in their 2 losses between Buffalo and Arizona. That's obviously not going to get it done, but it's very telling of how much this team relies on Wilson to be perfect to win football games.
Yeah. Also, just to be clear about my Mahomes should be MVP take, I just Googled Russell Wilson to look up some stats, and the first story to come up, Bleacher Report, did Josh Allen leapfrog Russell Wilson as MVP favorite? So not quite what we're on the same page with.
No, I'm definitely not going to go that far, but he had a really good performance in this one. I think he kind of needed a performance like this because the Bills were looking a little shaky the last couple of weeks, and I thought he really delivered. Like I said, he picked them apart. I continue to not understand the Seattle defense thing. Like, they had 7. You can't blame the pass rush for the secondary stinking in this one because they had 7 sacks. I thought, Carlos Dunlap comes in, but they had good players back there with guys like Quandre Diggs and Quentin Dunbar's back there too. I mean, there's probably a more technical way to look at this. I'm sure this is something you've looked at too. But at the same time, I feel like it's great that you can have a safety that can fly around the field, help in the line of scrimmage, and make all these plays like Jamal Adams did. And, he did have a very good game on his return by being able to do that. But it also stinks when you trade for a safety and he's not helping the worst pass defense in football. Do they need to change up so that he's not – he's wreaking havoc at the line of scrimmage, but do they need to change up so he's helping this pass defense more?
I mean, I think no, because I don't think that's what he is. And I think when they traded for him, they misevaluated their talent, which in fairness, so did I. I thought their secondary was going to be great this year, and it's been terrible. So I was way off on that, and they clearly were too. They added him to be a guy to be a great run stopper and to be able to blitz and make some big plays. And that's what he's done. He's been exactly as advertised. But putting him in as just like a coverage safety, that's not going to help you any more than this, Bradley McDougall would have. I mean, that's not. I'm not saying he's bad at it, but it's just not what he's special at. I think this is an interesting question. Is Seattle a Super Bowl contender? I don't think so. That's what the comment said. I mean, I'll say yes, but I don't think they're. I mean, they have some clear problems.
Yeah, but the way I'm kind of looking at it, doesn't just about every team in the NFC have clear problems, it seems like? It seems like I really feel like the NFC is going to come down to almost matchup-based scenarios. Because, I mean, I'm just looking at it here, and while I think Seattle relies a lot on Russell Wilson being almost perfect, I think he's capable of being almost perfect in a lot of different games. I think that I think this team with a lack of pass rush and not a very good defense, I don't think they're going to handle Tampa Bay very well. But it's very clear that Tampa Bay can't handle New Orleans very well. And it's very clear New Orleans can't handle Green Bay's game very well. So I feel like a lot of this towards the NFC is just going to be kind of matchup based. I think there's a lot of really good teams on that side, but there's very obvious weaknesses with all of them.
Yeah, that's a good point. Good stuff. As for the Bills, again, I feel like this is a huge win. They had they're 7-2 now. They had kind of not looked fantastic in their past 3 games. They lost to the Chiefs, only scored 17 points. They beat the Jets and they beat the Patriots, but didn't look really great in either of those games. Actually, past 4 games because they lost to the Titans in a blowout fashion the week before that. But now they're able to come back. They're able to beat one of the top teams in the NFC, and it's kind of a statement win, I think.
Well, yeah, I mean, the big thing is that they're I had talked about a lot of my preseason stuff on Allen, and my conversation on Allen, just in general, was just his performance against good teams and how he performed against the best. I always thought he looked good against the Jets and the Dolphins for reasons throughout the season, throughout his first couple of seasons. And then his best game so far this season, going up until this game, was against the Rams, where there was the play, pass interference play at the end that was pretty controversial, and he still made a lot of mistakes in that one too, I thought. Being able to get this win, a signature win, where not only that, but Allen's the best player on the field in a game with Russell Wilson, I feel like that just goes a lot towards what this team can be and their potential.
Yeah, I think it's fair enough. All right, let's move on now to one of the shockingly close games this week. How about, I guess the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to Pittsburgh Steelers, I suppose. This is what, for Mike Tomlin, he's an unbelievably great head coach. For whatever reason, his teams always seem to play bad teams closely, that they shouldn't. For Dallas, they were able to make this game competitive. I think the real winner of this game was Carson Wentz, because he can be like, see, they're better than their record. Yeah, this is kind of a weird game, but I guess for Pittsburgh, you got the win. It could be a lot worse. You're still 8-0, not the end of the world.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what it is about Ben Roethlisberger, but he's better when injured. He should just take a bullet to his foot almost before the game every game, and then he'll come out guns blazing, because he completely turned it around after he came out for that series. I don't know, what a weird game. The Steelers, I don't know, 8-0, but 5-0 in one-score games. 5 wins in one-score games, and not only that, those one-score games include the Cowboys, the Texans, the Broncos.
Yeah, and that was the Broncos without Drew Lock.
Yeah, so I mean, what a wild team this is. I mean, Minka Fitzpatrick is awesome and saves this team a whole bunch, it seems like. But at the same time, their offense just kind of comes and goes, it just seems like. It's just going to be what it is throughout the season.
Yeah, I mean, they're a defensive-minded team, and a lot of people are wondering if a defensive-minded team can be successful in the NFL. And their offense is certainly not they're not the Bears out there, but they're definitely – they're focused on defense. I want to start a trend. I think we need to start criticizing people who, when they get an interception, they run it out and get tackled at the 4-yard line, like Minka Fitzpatrick did in this game.
I mean, he should. I saw him being criticized, and he should be criticized for it. Yeah, that's never a good idea. Yeah, I mean, but he ended up making the play though, so that's the important thing for him. They continued. Tony Pollard actually had a pretty good game for Dallas. But I thought against Elliott, the Steelers did pretty good defending the run once again. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, though, I think it's kind of a defensive team, but then the offense can score at times. That's kind of what I was saying, is they can't show up. It's just depending on when and where they're going to show up.
Yeah, exactly. Well, again, we kind of talked about how Ben Roethlisberger has basically been a game manager, but he's been a really good game manager where he knows when to take shots. He knows when to play it safe. It's nice having a veteran quarterback in that role. It kind of reminds me of it's definitely not a 1-for-1, but you can almost make a similar argument to him and Peyton Manning's last year, where Roethlisberger is still a lot better of a thrower than Manning was. But Manning clearly had lost something, and he learned how to change his game. You've seen it with Roethlisberger. He's a different kind of quarterback. He's a gunslinger by nature, and he hasn't been this season. And I find it very interesting to watch and how successful it's been.
Yeah. No, I agree 100%. He's found a way to maximize some of these wide receivers around him, and also, like you said, he's not committing turnovers, and that's a good decision by him, because he has one of the best defenses in the league behind him, that as long as they can easily win games by essentially just winning the field position battle and not making mistakes.
Yes, and also before we end this talking about this game, got to talk about Garrett Gilbert. That was fun. I know it didn't end up in a win, but it was just fun to see AAF legend Garrett Gilbert out there, nearly leading an a massive 14.5 half-point upset victory.
Hey man, when him and Mason Rudolph were playing for that small time, 10 years ago, that would have been Big 12 highlight game. Mason Rudolph. They didn't play at the same times, but Oklahoma State's Mason Rudolph against Texas Garrett Gilbert. That's the Big 12 matchup right there. Yeah, I mean, it was an adventure. It was like a guy who hadn't played in the NFL before in his life. Um, yeah, I mean, he had some moments, but at the same time, obviously, he's just not good enough to beat the Steelers team.
Yes. Also, veteran move by you to mention that they haven't played at the same time, because someone would have commented about that if you didn't mention it there. So good job by you getting in front of the
Yes.
commenters.
Yeah,
All
I got to get in front of
right.
it.
Yes, exactly. Okay. Let's see. I haven't. Let's talk this one. Raiders Chargers. Probably should put this higher on the list, but that's fine. This was another crazy game. Literally goes down to the final second here. This was kind of a weird one. The Chargers come very close. We saw Justin Herbert lead a near game-winning drive that consisted of almost entirely halfback checkdowns up until the final couple plays. The Chargers thought they had it until like the seventh replay. You could see that the ball came out. What a heartbreaking loss for the Chargers. It's now becoming a weekly saying, but it's true in this one as well. And good for the Raiders to get out of there for a win.
Yeah, I mean, they ended up getting the job. Have you ever seen a team so close to being like 7-1, like 2-6?
Yes, the Chargers for the past 10 years, I think, would also fall in there.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like they had so many games that right there between. Yeah, I mean, look at this. This is great, and not only that, it's good teams losing to Kansas City, New Orleans in overtime, losing by 1 to Denver, losing by 5 to Vegas, losing by 5 to Carolina, and losing by 7 to Tampa Bay in a game that they were up. They were up pretty big early, if I remember
24,
correctly.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, this team could easily be like 6-1, 7-1, right? Or 6-2, 7-1 right now. Chips haven't gone their way at the very end of the games. Part of it is playing with a young quarterback. Part of it is just what this team kind of does. I don't know if it's a coaching thing, but yeah, I mean, it's a tough break for the Chargers. I thought Herbert was really good again. It looked like he might have got hurt, and I was a little concerned. Then they had that stupid Tyrod Taylor play for the 2-point conversion that, it was an A for effort from Taylor, but it was like an F- for execution.
Well, that was almost an all-time highlight where he like gets around like 17 different guys, and then finally it was the last one who gets him.
Well, the worst part too was he made all those guys miss, and then tries to run over Nick Kwiatkowski. Like that's gonna happen. Tough break for him. This Raiders offense, I don't think the numbers are going to do it enough justice because I think they punted 3 times today, and even on a couple of those drives that they punted, it seems like they took up 3.5 minutes, 4 minutes off the clock. This offense was really good. Devontae Booker was a bit of a spark plug for them, and it seemed like every time he touched the ball, he was going to get 15 yards. So I continue. I feel like both of these teams, the Raiders are obviously ahead of the Chargers right now and a better team than Chargers. I feel like both of these teams, though, I'm just kind of along for the ride, and I'm really excited to see where it goes because it goes all over the place with these two teams, mainly because they're pretty good on one side of the ball and not very good on the other.
Yeah, they're definitely a lot of fun. I'm trying to think. I think that's all I wanted to cover for this one. Yeah, I mean, just for the Raiders again, another good win. They've beaten the Chiefs, and I guess for them, they play Denver next week and the Chiefs the week after, which is Sunday night, which is going to be an awesome game, we should think. And for them, I mean, obviously Kansas City is clearly out in front, but they have a moment to really, I think, show what they're capable of. They also played, they played Denver twice the remainder down the stretch. They played the Jets. They played the Chargers again. They played the Falcons. Like, they have these games where they can pick up some wins, and they look like a playoff team. I'd be surprised to not see them in the tournament.
I think right now this is a playoff team. I'd chalk it up as that. But I think part of the thing we see with this team is that I just feel like sometimes with this defense is that they're susceptible to losing some games against teams are better than. And I think we saw that today. They almost lost this game out of the defense. Once again, wasn't great to me in this one. I think they could be susceptible to an upset in that regard, but at the same time, the way this offense is rolling, I don't see any chance right now.
Yeah. Also, Moochie Studio, very good point. That meant to mention that this is a great uniform matchup. That's true. One of the all-time uniform matchups. I thought this one.
Yeah, I think I actually tweeted that out during the game. That this is the even when the home and the away thing goes. I do think that I know people are partial to the powder blue. I thought the navy was slick too. So good uniform there for the Chargers.
Yeah. Oh, I remember the one thing I wanted to say. I have a conspiracy theory. Okay.
Oh boy.
This is a sci-fi conspiracy theory. So get excited. What
Stop the
if
count. No.
Dean? What if? Also, that's been a very fun thing is to stop the score memes going on. But yeah, back to football. So what if Dean Spanos can time travel, right? Which seems probable. I mean, he's a billionaire. They have access to stuff that most of us don't have. He can time travel. He saw all these heartbreaking losses the Chargers were going to have and purposely moved the team to LA just to get fans annoyed and to abandon the team so that way they wouldn't have to suffer this fate. Dean Spanos, secret hero.
That's interesting. I feel like this is almost the curse of San Diego. They're just striking down upon them right now.
That could also be true. I think more likely they're just weird. We'll move on. Let's talk about this game. The Bears offense is so bad. It's so frustrating. And I talked myself into the Bears being good because I love their defense. And their defense was awesome in this game. I mean, it completely shut down Tennessee in the first half, despite the Bears going 3 and out every drive. This offense just cannot get. I mean, they hold Ryan Tannehill, a guy who's been putting up nothing but amazing stats, to 158 yards. They hold Derrick Henry to 3.2 yards per carry. And out of 158 of Tannehill's yards, a lot of those were on one big A.J. Brown play. And they lose by 7 points. I mean, this is just, I'm so frustrated with this Bears offense because their defense is so fun to watch.
Yeah. So I guess, I was ready to almost lead an intervention group with the chat people here. So you're out on the Bears now, right? We're done with this.
I mean, they're 5-4. Like they have. I mean, look at who they play. They still play the Vikings, the Lions, the Vikings again, the Texans, the Jaguars. Like they could squeak in. They'll get knocked out week 1, but they could still have a shot at being a playoff team. And again, I mean, they beaten the Bucs. Like they have a chance to beat a good team. But I'm pretty out. I mean, they're not a great team. Their ceiling is 1-win playoff team.
That's probably fair. I mean, this is one of those games that people are going to look back on the box score and say, "Oh, Nick Foles wasn't that bad." I mean, this game was over by the time Nick Foles actually started playing, and then he threw the ball 52 times.
Yeah,
this was inept for 3.5 quarters. There was nothing going on with this game. I mean, I don't know. It took them 3 quarters to figure out to throw the ball to Allen Robinson, and he had a big fourth quarter. I keep saying this, but I don't understand. So Matt Nagy obviously was regarded. I keep saying it. He was regarded as such a high offensive coordinator or offensive coach, but his system doesn't fit Foles and it doesn't fit Mitch Trubisky. Who exactly to bring in that this is going to fit?
Yeah, now he's considered a high offensive coach in a different way. I mean, yeah, it's crazy to think that this guy won a Coach of the Year because this is not working. And I talked about it in my video I made about the who should start between Foles and Trubisky. It's like no matter what, it's not going to work with Nagy's play calling. He's having Allen Robinson run setup routes in the red zone on 3rd and 7. I mean, I just don't understand what this guy does. And it's just bad on offense. And let's not forget their offensive line is abysmal. Like one thing I've heard people say is, well, you should have Trubisky start and have him, run RPOs. They can't block for that. You have to have guys who can block if you're going to do that kind of thing. This is just save Allen Robinson because this is a mess.
Well, the thing is that makes no sense to me is that their offensive line's good, but Foles kind of has the skill set to where if you run Foles the right way, you don't necessarily need a lights out offensive line because he is, you just get him in the shotgun, run a quick passes, and he has a pretty good release. I think this is something you talked about too, is that, you just get him sort of those quick passing games. That's something he can do pretty well that you don't need an elite offensive line. It's just, it's like they go down 24 before they actually do stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't know what they're doing. They're a mess. But let's talk about the Titans. They get a win. I guess good performance by their defense. I mean, it was against the Bears. Again, they shut out the Bears through 3 quarters. The Bears scored 17 garbage time points. Let's be honest about how this game went. And they have a huge game on Thursday, as I talked about earlier, against Indianapolis. So I think this is a promising game. I think they'll probably need a little bit more offensive production against the Colts defense, which is in the same ballpark. I'd put Chicago ahead, but they're in the same ballpark. But I mean, their defense actually played well. And I think the hope is that they can do something similar against another offense that can come and go in Indianapolis.
Yeah, I mean, if they were giving up points to this team, then you're absolutely concerned as a Titans fan. At least nice to see them put together a good performance. This week, Tannehill, if you go by his games, he was lights out those early games. It's kind of regressed a little bit, and his passing completion percentage has regressed a little bit the last 3 weeks, but he's still getting the job done. And, 2 of those games he also played Pittsburgh and Chicago, so that obviously adds to it. But he got the job done. AJ Brown is awesome. He's really good. Can't say enough about how good he is. That catch, it was a good throw by Tannehill, but it was also awesome that 2 guys are on AJ. It looked like nothing to get that touchdown. I thought it was a good job from him. It's going to be, I don't know, like the Titans and the Colts just need to merge together for one team, because then that's a really good football team. But I don't know. It's such an interesting game. I don't know which way I'm leaning towards that one yet. I'm going to look into that one a little more. I think it's going to be interesting to watch those 2 teams play. Yeah, I mean, Tennessee getting back in the win column has to feel good after losing that Bengals game.
Yes, and we'll talk about that more obviously on Wednesday at 9:00 when we do our weekly prediction show. And yep, I think that's it for that game. So we got a few left. Let's talk about this was a close game, not a game many people cared about, but a close game. The Texans are able to hold on, and the Jaguars, they do better selecting in the 6th round than they do in the 1st round. Jake Luton actually looked pretty good in this one, 300 yards on 38 attempts, a touchdown and a pick. And James Robinson showing he is legit. He had 99 yards on 4 yards per carry. They fell just short. And DJ Chark, the big stat line of 146 yards, but falling just short in this game that I'm pretty sure only Texans and Jaguars fans watched live.
Yeah, I mean, I think I actually had it on one of my Sunday ticket ones just because I was curious. Okay. Luton, I think, is it Luton? I don't know. Luton, drops an absolute dime to start the game just to turn a bunch of people's heads. I thought that was really a great throw on that part. Texans obviously recovered. And is this the worst defense? We've harped on this defense, but is it the worst in the league to you?
Yes, I think so. I think this is the one defense I'm thinking of. I'm going to go back and look at their schedule. I don't think they've had 1 week where I'm like, well, at least they did good then. I mean, they've given up. I'm looking at it right now. This was their best defensive performance. They're tied for. Well, they had actually, in fair, they gave up. I guess week 1 against the Colts, they looked solid because they don't. I think they picked off. But to me, they didn't even look that great. That was just Rivers just being an idiot and making dumb decisions. I think other than that, this was probably their best defensive performance, and they still gave up 27. So, yeah, I would say they're the worst.
Yeah, I mean, this is 2 bottom 5 defenses, honestly, if we're looking at it. I think the one takeaway I had against this game, there was a play at the end of it. I know it was the end of the game, but Deshaun Watson dove for the end zone and basically was upended. Be smart. You're playing the Jaguars and your team's 1-6. You don't need to die for the end zone, Deshaun. We want to see you play 10 years. And I think that's something that actually, you watch like guys like Lamar, Kyler, and Russell, they're actually really good at avoiding hits. And, we've seen it so many times with some of these more quarterbacks. Just be smart. There's no reason to get hurt in a 1-6 team. Just stay healthy, please. I don't want to see him get hurt.
Yeah, especially with his, his list of injuries he's had. I mean, you think he's an MMA fighter with all the crazy injuries he's had. I'm with you. Yeah. All right. Any final thoughts on this one? I think that's all we have to really mention on it.
Speaking of injuries, one more thing on this one. So who would have thought that 8 games into the season, Will Fuller and Brandon Cooks are still on the field? They both played really well in this one. But yeah, just good for them to be on field too.
Yes, good for Will Fuller after the trade talk to be able to put up 100 yards for a team that's going absolutely nowhere. We will move on. Let's talk some balls. Giants defeated the Washington football team, and Daniel Jones so close to a turnoverless, he had a turnoverless game. He's so close to a game without an interception or a fumble. He ended up with 2 fumbles, but I think it was in the third quarter was when he finally fumbled. So good game for him, not turning the ball over officially. And we saw an Alex Smith sighting. He was in the Brett Favre zone. He had over 10 yards per attempt. He actually looked pretty decent out there. And for the Giants, they're able to get a win. This game ended up being a lot closer than I thought it was going to be. Yeah, I mean, what are your thoughts on this one, on this wild game that we all were looking forward to?
Well, I guess the first thing is, obviously we continue to say anytime he comes on, it's nice to see Alex Smith on the field. The 3 interceptions were not very nice, but I mean, this is probably him for the rest of the season now, right? I mean, what do you really have to lose with putting Alex Smith in there for the rest of the year?
Yeah, I mean, and I thought his interceptions were, a lot of it was just like, I think I only saw 2 of them. But I thought a lot of it was just him just trying to be a gunslinger and just trying to make stuff happen because, they were down. I mean, Alex Smith's a good quarterback. Like, let's not forget, before the injury, Alex Smith had the then Washington Redskins at a 6-3 record. I always try to bring that up. It's like, this was kind of working until the injury happened. I mean, I don't know. Why not see what you got in him? I feel like there's a better chance Alex Smith turns into a franchise quarterback than Kyle Allen.
Yeah. I mean, I completely agree with that. I think I just feel like it's time for him for the rest of the season. Seeing what's left in that tank, pretty much. The Giants weirdly have found a running game with Alfred Morris, who I forgot was still in the league these last 2 weeks, and Wayne Gallman. They weirdly, finally, Jason Garrett's play calling came through. The running game's back. They made a few plays for the passing game. It was a good performance from the Giants, but at the same time, they won the turnover margin by 3, which they don't win the turnover margin very often, and they only won the game by 3.
Yeah, exactly. Also, Mucci Studio is saying McLaurin is a top 8 receiver. He had 1 catch that was just ridiculous in this one, and an overall good game, 115 yards as well. Yeah, he continues to be. He's become one of those wide receivers that everyone says is underrated. But because, by the way, there's at least 50 wide receivers in the NFL that are underrated according to that fan base, and he is one of them.
Yeah. I mean, he's going to turn into the next Allen Robinson if he sticks with his team.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know about top 8 because I think there's too many good receivers in the league now.
Exactly.
I mean, I was looking at it the other day because it's like, is DK Metcalf really top 3? But it's at the same time, there's so many good receivers. How do you make that judgment right now?
Yeah, and that's the first thing. And plus, it's the thing, everybody says that their team has the worst offensive line in the league because they they don't really care about those guys. Everyone also says that their star receiver is incredibly underrated, but he actually is underrated also. I should bring that up. He is very good. Doesn't get a lot of attention because he plays for the balls. All right. Good for Daniel Jones. We'll move on. Let's go with how about, I guess, picking our poison here. Broncos, Falcons. Atlanta holds on for a victory. You don't hear that too often. And again, this is kind of the game where Denver finally got something going when they sort of just let Locke cook. But they didn't have enough time left, and Atlanta was able to hold on for this one.
I finally pick a Falcons game where they win.
Yes.
Yeah. The Broncos thing continues to baffle me. They have to. You can't say kind of garbage time stuff, but at the same time, you have to look at the last 2 weeks. Just look at this team when their offense plays well, and look at this team when the offense plays badly, and look at the difference in the play calling. Just look at what you're doing when they're playing well. It's Locke throwing the ball downfield. I feel like that just needs to keep happening.
Yeah, and I mean, also worth mentioning, Jerry Jeudy was awesome in this game. He had 125 yards. He had, I saw this was on the front page of Reddit, or on the NFL Reddit, where he was faking as though he's running a go route. He puts his hand up like the signal he's going for a go route, and then cuts short, gets for actually running a curl route. Ended up scoring a touchdown on that play. That was an awesome play. His route running is still, it's not NFL good. It's better than that. He's awesome. And, for the Falcons, though, I mean, they won this game. I feel like everyone's going to talk about the Denver Broncos. Atlanta was able to win. Matt Ryan was Matt Ryan. Todd Gurley only averaged 2.8 yards per carry, but they were able to get out of here with a win. They scored 34 points against a good defense. I mean, they're not, I think the best defense, but they're a good defense in pretty much every statistical category, and they were able to, put up 34. That's a good win for the Falcons.
Yeah, I mean, Todd Gurley is going to become my favorite player in the NFL because it makes no sense. I think him and Jordan Howard are my two favorite statistical categories. But it's just funny to watch him, look completely washed, but he gets in the end zone almost every time. But yeah, I mean, like you said, they're just winning football games, so that's the only thing that matters. Is this going to be the same thing as last year, where they just weirdly win a bunch of games at the end of the year, and they're going to be 7-9 again?
Absolutely. I think I said this right after which game was it? Might have been when they beat the Vikings, which put them at 1-5. I believe I said that they're going 7-9 again. Like this is just so Falcons. They are definitely going to win their way out of a top pick once again.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. It's just kind of how they done it. I don't know, absolutely hilarious that they keep doing this. And, the guy said he wanted a rebuild, and now he's not going to get it because they're going to have too good of a draft pick. Just so you know, because I mentioned it, Jordan Howard, I believe, is something along the lines of like 30 yards and 4 touchdowns this season on like 27 carries. So
seems about right. Also, good news for the Falcons good news for Falcons fans hoping for a good draft pick. They played the Saints twice. They played the Bucs twice. They played the Raiders, the Chiefs, and then the only game where they might be favored is against the Chargers. So good opportunity to rack up some losses there and still. And you already have a quarterback, so even though there's been trade rumors, but I think they have a quarterback to get a good player.
Yeah, that's a brutal schedule at the end of the season. How is anybody going to pick that Chargers-Falcons game?
No, I don't know. That's just whoever is. That's the game you let the other team get ahead, so that way they'll be the ones who blow it. Yeah. All right. Let's talk. Matt Patricia is the worst. Matt Patricia is terrible. The Lions lose to the Vikings. So last week, the Lions had multiple plays where they only had 10 men on the field. This week, on Dalvin Cook's 70-yard touchdown run, guess how many Lions were on the field because it's not 11?
10.
Yes, it was 10. How does this keep happening? The simplest thing in football is to make sure you have 11 guys out there. 12 is one thing. Why do you keep putting 10 guys out there? Matt Patricia, get it together.
I think the other thing is that it's not like they're doing it in like week 2. It's their 8th game of the season where they keep doing this. Yeah, I mean, so Dalvin Cook. Okay, so true or false? Let's do this. You can elaborate too if you want. You don't have to say true or false. True or false, though. Okay. Dalvin Cook is the best non-quarterback offensive player in the league.
I would have to think about it. I would probably say false. I think there's other guys. I don't think he's the best back in the league. I just think they rely on him a lot. He's in a good system, and he's one of the best backs in the league.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Who would you put above him right now for best back in the league? McCaffrey still?
I would say McCaffrey. I still say Nick Chubb in terms of just pure running. I mean, listen, obviously he's going to put up those like ridiculous. Like this game, he had 22 carries for 206 yards, which is in 2 touchdowns, which is just like that's video game numbers. Like that doesn't happen. But I mean, I think there's plenty of things you could. I'll say this. I'll give you this. Dalvin Cook, when he's on, is better than any other non-quarterback when they're on. Like Dalvin Cook's value when he has one of those games. But again, I feel like a lot of what he does is he dominates against teams with bad run defenses. And I feel like I'm going to come off as a Dalvin Cook hater. Dalvin Cook is awesome. Like he's absolutely awesome. And again, he does have the capability to take over a game, which not a lot of non-quarterbacks have that ability.
Yeah, and that was probably a little too far, but that's all, because I was trying to include wide receivers, tight ends, and offensive linemen there. But at the same time, like, my God, like, there's nothing really else to see these last 2 weeks. It's just like, my God, he just can't be stopped. My favorite play of like any running play is that like short little pitch they do where it's almost like just a a faster version of the stretch play because he gets the ball more quickly. And then he
Mhm.
almost just has a full head of steam running right at the tackle. It's unguardable. I don't know how you handle it at all because he's running downhill essentially on a stretch pitch. It's almost unguardable to me. It just seems like he gets 5 yards every time that happens.
Yeah, and I mean, give credit to the Vikings offensive line too, where they're not the best in pass protection, but they have a lot of guys who can run block really well. I still like Garrett Bradbury, Minnesota center, who he's kind of that perfect to a T. He's not the best in pass protection, but he's so athletic and can get out and make blocks on the and go out and block guys. So that's what they can do. And again, Matthew Stafford had 211 yards. Granted, Chase Daniel came in and had 94 of his own. Kirk Cousins had 220, and Cook had 206. So he's hanging with these quarterbacks. And we have yet another game where Dalvin Cook gets more carries than Kirk Cousins does. He had 22 carries. Cousins has 20 attempts.
Yeah. I mean, he was awesome. So, this is when the offense is at its best. If they go down 14 and they're forcing Cousins to throw the ball 35 times, they're in big trouble. But when they can play like this, and I think that Justin Jefferson has been also just awesome for them too, and not missing Stephon Diggs, they finally figured that out. This is our last game, right?
Well, I believe there's also the Thursday night game.
Oh, crap. Okay. So I want to do playoff picture in the NFC, so we can talk about that game, then I want to get into it.
Okay. Well, yeah, I want to say one more thing, though. Is there a chance this Minnesota team could squeak in to the playoffs? They're 3-5, and look at the schedule they have. Okay? They play Chicago twice, which, honestly, I feel like that's you could say they could split it. The Bears have had Kirk Cousins' number in a big way, but those are two winnable games. They also play Dallas. They play Jacksonville. And then they play Detroit again. And then they also have a few that are kind of iffy with the Panthers, Buccaneers, and Saints. Is there a chance they could turn this around, or is it just 3-5 is too hard to come back from?
I mean, this was kind of what I was getting at, because if they beat Chicago twice, they're even with them, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, they'd be a half a game up because of bye week, but at the same, so if they beat Chicago twice, I mean, I can reel it. There's a chance if they play their best football in all of these games, there's a chance they're 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 7. And that's beating everybody besides Tampa Bay and New Orleans. So, I mean, absolutely, I think there's a chance that they sneak in.
Yeah. All right. Well, here, we'll do the Thursday night game, and then we'll get into that playoff picture thing. I mean, so I actually thought that the 49ers, it felt like they had a shot early on. Like they were hanging with Green Bay a little bit, and then Nick Mullins just, proves he's not the answer. I thought he kind of made some crucial mistakes there. And just the Green Bay Packers offense was awesome. Aaron Rodgers was awesome. He had 305 yards on just 31 attempts, 4 touchdowns, no picks. That's going to win you most football games, and it won them this one by 17 points.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I thought, they were kind of in it at the beginning, but then Green Bay kind of just enforced their will, and this running offense obviously for Shanahan works, but at the same time, it's just never going to work if you're stuck with Jerick McKinnon as your option. I think Jerick McKinnon's a good alternate because he has some speed to him, but when he's your lead back, it's just I don't see a lot of offenses working with that who are so run heavy like them.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, they had some, they're just, for the 49ers, you kind of just, I feel like you shake it off and say, you know what, this was, they got, the injuries killed them. They could be good next year. At least you can get a better draft pick than you would have and go from there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of out on the season because of it. Green Bay, you have to feel pretty good about the run defense playing a little better. You let Richie James go off, which is not something I expected to say this season. And, I thought Jones was good in his return. He wasn't perfect, but I thought he was good battling an injury because he was a game-time decision. And, by the way, Davante Adams is good at football. Don't forget that.
Right. Also,
Davante Adams is the most underrated receiver in the NFL.
I feel like that's been said. That has to be, Davante Adams is talking about guys who get talked about as underrated. Davante Adams is the king of this guy is so underrated.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, another 10 catches, 173 yards. He looks like he's unstoppable at times. So,
Also, is it a missed opportunity for Richie James to not go by Rick James?
yeah, I mean, definitely. I don't know why anybody wouldn't do that.
Yeah. I think you should go by Rick James.
Yeah, I mean, if he scored a touch on his touchdown, he better have said, "I'm Rick James, bitch," and walked off the field. But
Yes, exactly, exactly. All right. Well, you said you wanted to get into the playoff picture. What was your? I'll let you lead this. What do you want to say?
all right, so I want to look. So let's look at these standings right now. So playoff picture for each side. Right now, in the NFC, you have the Saints at 1, Seahawks also at 6-2, Green Bay at 6-2, Philadelphia at 3-4-1, which is pathetic. Tampa Bay at 6-3 at 5, Arizona at 5-3 at 6, Los Angeles at 5-3 at 7, Chicago at 5-4, San Francisco at 4-5, but both of those teams are trending down. Then you have Minnesota and Detroit and Atlanta with 3 wins, and Carolina with 3 wins. So I guess, do you see any of these 3 win teams potentially making a jump up?
Well, yeah, I talked about Minnesota. I think they have an opportunity to. It's hard. I don't know. I mean, again, I'm trying to figure out. A lot of it's going to come down to scheduling as well. I'm looking at Carolina. Well, Carolina plays Minnesota. That could end up actually in a weird way. It's possible that one could have playoff implications. Carolina, they play Tampa Bay and they play New Orleans and they play Green Bay. So those are 3 games that are going to be tough to win. If they lose 2 of those, that's pretty much a death sentence because they're 3-6, whereas Detroit and Minnesota are 3-5. Detroit's not going to. Minnesota's the one I could potentially see squeaking in there, but it seems like 98% chance it's going to be for the 3 wildcard teams: Arizona, the Rams, and the Bucs.
Yeah, it's so interesting because I mean, these NFC South teams or the NFC West teams are going to beat each other up. I have no
Mm-hmm.
doubt about that because at the same time, like the Rams are sitting there at 5-3 with the last wild card spot, but at the same time, they still have to play Arizona and Seattle twice each, and they have to play San Francisco again, and they have to play Tampa Bay. It's like I, I
Yeah.
wouldn't. I mean, I think Minnesota has a legit shot to recover and get back to the playoffs, which is something that seemed unheard of earlier in the year.
Well, that's an interesting point about the Rams because the Rams do have a tough schedule. I just saw that. I mean, they play the Jets and the Patriots, which you expect them to win both of those games. But yeah, I mean, that's the team that you could see maybe stumbling down the stretch and find a way to lose. And again, we talk about the Bears. Like the Bears don't have that tough of a schedule, and they are 5-4, and they have one of the best defenses in the league. Again, I mentioned they play Minnesota twice. They're a team that has dominated Kirk Cousins since he's gotten there. Maybe they can continue to do that. And Chicago will end up squeaking in there at a 9-7, 10-6 team, and then beating the Bucs because I can't have nice things in football.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's possible. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I get the Bears have winnable games, but I can't trust this team. I really can't. I can't trust. This isn't 1960 anymore, I feel like. You can't win games where you're scoring 13 points a game. That's just my feeling on the Bears right now until I'm proven otherwise. Yeah, I know. I think the NFC is interesting. The AFC, it's also actually pretty interesting because I feel like it's 9 teams and everybody else. You have Pittsburgh at 1, Kansas City at 2, Buffalo at 3, Tennessee at 4, Baltimore at 5. Then we have the Raiders, Dolphins at 6 and 7 at 5-3. Then you have the Browns and Colts at 5-3, also in the mix. Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be interesting to see how those teams shake out. Who would you bet on those 4 teams to make the playoffs for 2 spots? Assuming Baltimore, of course, gets in.
Yeah. So the 4 teams that if Baltimore gets in and all the division leaders hold, the 4 teams would be Miami, the Raiders, the Browns, and the Colts. Amazingly, one in each division as well. That's interesting. Probably Indianapolis and Las Vegas. And I haven't looked at the schedules, but those feel like the 2 teams I feel the best about. Although Cleveland, again, I feel like it's hard to picture Indianapolis, Cleveland, and Las Vegas. One of those teams isn't going to make it unless Baltimore doesn't. And even the Dolphins, like it's really going to be hard to say. It might come down to scheduling as well. They're all teams that I would not be shocked if they made it, and I would be kind of surprised if they missed it. But obviously, at least 2 of them gotta.
Yeah, Yeah, I mean, I think the Raiders obviously have a favorable schedule. We talked about that. The
Mhm.
Browns also, play the Texans, Eagles, Jaguars, Giants, and Jets. Even though they have to play the Steelers and the Ravens, they have to feel pretty good about a lot of those games. They can walk out easily if you look at the Texans, Jaguars, Giants, and Jets. I mean, you got to think that's 9 wins, and if they can steal one from the Eagles, Titans, Ravens, Steelers, then that's potentially a top 10. That's a 10-win team right there. I think
Yep.
10 wins gets in too. Um, the Dolphins, I think, are really good, but at the same time, like at the end, their end of the season, I think is going to decide it because they got the Chiefs, Patriots, who beat them earlier in the year, the Raiders, and the Bills. They got to get, I think one or maybe two of those games potentially, and then the same thing with the Colts. The Colts have the
Mhm.
Titans and Packers back to, or they have Titans twice in the next 3 weeks. They got to win one of those, plus the Packers, and they still have the Raiders, Steelers as well.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think that looking at the schedule, I was looking at it a little bit too. Yeah, I guess I'll say the Raiders and Cleveland will be the two most likely, but I wouldn't be shocked if it's a different one. Should be interesting down the stretch. We're getting it past the halfway point here in the season.
Yeah, yeah, I think it's fun to watch. Great weekend of football too. We had some great college football games. If anybody watched that Notre Dame Clemson game around the speech, it was a good game there. So fun weekend of football and competitive. That Dolphins Cardinals game, one of the best games of the year.
Yeah, yeah, a lot of fun. All right, well, I think that's it. That's it for our show. Kyle, any final thoughts before we end the night here at nearly 1:30 here on the East Coast?
No, I think we just about covered it. Looking forward to. I guess I'm looking forward to Monday night. We'll see how this game goes. Got to beat the Jets. If anyone wants to listen to my podcast about the Patriots, I'll just plug it now. That's GuyBostonSports.com. You can go look up the Patriot Way podcast. The link is also below us in the description. That's the Patriot Way podcast. And I break down the Patriots and I talk a little bit about this game. And one of the things I started doing is scouting out some players that we could target for the 2021 NFL draft because it feels like a playoff shot's out of the question now for the Patriots. So I break down Mac Jones out of Alabama. So if you're interested to see
Okay.
how I feel about Mac Jones, you can go listen to that.
Yes, give us a teaser. How do you feel about that? A couple sentences. How do you feel about Mac Jones?
Mac Jones is a huge quarterback with a great pocket mobility and kind of throws the ball like Drew Bledsoe. The knock on him
Okay.
is a guy who wasn't really rated highly in high school, and is also throwing before Jalen Waddle got hurt. He was throwing to the number one and number two wide receivers in college football, and has the best offensive line in college football in front of him. So he could be fortunate with the circumstances, but at the same time, you got to like a lot of what he sees. And if the Patriots want to go back to that Brady sort of offense, Mac Jones would be a great pick for that.
All right, interesting. Also, I think every Patriots hater getting a bunch of joy in their heart that a Patriots fan is now talking about the draft after week 9, or I guess almost after week 1. Eli Mullen says, "Tell Kyle the Pats are going down tomorrow." I wouldn't do no such thing, Eli. Kyle is my trusty sidekick in these videos, and I will not be telling him that the Pats are going down.
Um, I, I'm not going to bet on the Patriots this season.
Yeah, it's a rough one. Hey, tank for Mac. All right,
Mac Jones, baby.
yes, and until next time, everyone, have a good one.